following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Nick Harris, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Monday, September 9th, 2024, and we are here. Man, what a weekend. What a weekend. That was awesome. Cowboys kick off the NFL season with a win. Big win on the road against the Cleveland Browns. I think it was probably much more in the way of scoring by the Cowboys than any of us expected. But it was a win, and it was an impressive win to get things kicked off for this season. We're presented by LG. And so let's jump right in. Let's get into the meat of this game. Let's start first with what we thought was the story of the game, as we did last year. We'll go around the table and tell me what you think was the big story, the big picture story of the game. No, we'll get into some of the details. But what was the big picture story? I'll start with you, Nick.
For me, it has to start with the defensive unit. I mean, at all three levels, just executed to perfection. I think we expected it with this defensive front, like we talked about last week. You know, they were battling some injuries at the tackle positions. Ended up being both the starting left tackle and starting right tackle did not play in this game. So, I mean, you look at the pressures that were generated on Deshaun Watson. It was 20 plus. Micah himself had 12 plus. It was a big day for that defensive line. Then you look at the linebacking core, and we talked about during training camp, and as we've seen these guys get on the field and work together, they are so much more improved in that position. You saw Eric Kendricks get after it. DeMarvion Overshown got after it. If I had to pick my top two defenders from yesterday, it might be those two guys. They looked so strong. They were filling running lanes. They were getting after the quarterback. Eric Kendricks had 2 sacks. Overshown had 1. And then you look at the secondary. Trayvon Diggs gets an interception on one of the rare opportunities that he was even tested. And then you look at Kalen Carson, and he did just fine for his NFL debut. Safety group was strong. It has to start with the defense for me. Sure, they gave up a garbage time touchdown late, but this defense, it really stood tall and made life really difficult for the pass and run game for Cleveland.
Absolutely. I think the defense is a great storyline for sure. But to me, what caught my eye even more was the offense overall, because we went into a game wondering, okay, is CeeDee Lamb actually going to be able to step up his, not miss a beat? Is Dak Prescott going to be able to perform right after getting such a big contract? So a lot of questions surrounding that, as well as the O-line and the running game. And I think for me, and when you see an offense or Brendan Aubrey scoring 4 field goals, obviously you're like, okay, there's room for improvement for the offense for sure. But something that caught my eye and that was very impressive was that they were able to put up with the physicality and how tough and physical was the Browns defense sometimes. And not to say that the Cowboys are not physical themselves when it comes to offense, but you see games where it does wear them down, and then they start kind of playing not as strong. And these guys, man, they were hitting hard and just tackling hard. So for me, that's something that when I saw some of those hits and it still didn't stop them in general, you saw the players get back up. Hunter Lipke, another guy, Zeke, making some of those, helping blocking. It's just the offense was a lot more physical than I expected them to be in week 1. And to me, that caught my eye. Of course, room for improvement, but that's something that was good to me.
Yeah, I think even if Cleveland was healthy on offense, Dallas would have done the same thing defensively to them. They played that well. They were buttoned up in this one. The rotations they had at the defensive line spot, the ability of Mike and the staff to be able to kind of put guys in position to make plays. The guys in the back end were able to hold up. The safeties played well. You got some guys that probably didn't show up on the stat sheet that looked really well. Oso Digizua had some nice plays, some rushes there. Again, Mike moving around, Micah moving around Tank, putting them on the same side. They really did a nice job of confusing not only the quarterback, but they did a really good job of confusing the blocking scheme for the Browns. You could see there were several times where guys were blocking air instead of like maybe being a double on Parsons, maybe being a double on Tank, maybe, trying to help out there. So there were some scheme things that they were able to do defensively. This group at linebacker is completely different, and it's not just Overshown, but all these guys. Leofau got in there for a few plays, was effective. Look at Kendricks, the way that he plays. He's just always around the ball. It was really impressive to watch how they played as a unit up front. And even, Lewis playing the nickel. They just did not give anything up on the back end. And so much of that pressure was because of the scheme and the way that guys were able to play throughout the scheme. And they were in good shape. We remember Green Bay and what a disaster that was, with guys running open and guys out of position and all that. No, that was a complete opposite of what we saw on that day yesterday. And they took advantage of a broken quarterback, and that's good. You take advantage of a broken offensive line. That's good. There's times we've been around here, and that hasn't always been the case. It's like I remember games where, the Giants are down 4 offensive linemen, and Eli Manning throws for 400 yards. They used to not do these things. Now you see that, and I think that's really what came off to me is that group was buttoned up. They were ready to play. The scheme was good. The players were good. It was well coached.
I'll say this about the defensive unit. They probably should have had 10 sacks yesterday.
Yeah.
There were so many
after the
sacks
game, you could tell, like, Michael was like, yeah, we had some opportunities we missed.
Well, that's
we're not
what
going to miss
Well,
forever.
that's what we talked about in the breakdown is weak arm tackle. You got to go in there. You saw how you need to bring Deshaun Watson to the ground.
He's strong.
Yeah.
Overshown is that, in space, you tackle, you wrap, you see, that's what you got to do. And that's the lesson you learn. Tank had the same thing happen to him when you watch. There was some really good blitz designs. The one of the sacks they had that I thought was a really good design was your 2 best pass rushers dropped in coverage. They brought the slot blitz with Lewis. It's the first time he does it the whole game. He drops Micah, he drops Tank, and next thing you know, it's like they're on top of the quarterback. And so Mike had some ideas of how he wanted to attack these guys, and his players played really hard for him and did an excellent job of executing that.
I just saw, and Kendricks, he's a freaking beast. I just saw him. He was running around the field just now before the show. I'm like, dude, I'm tired. I didn't even play the game, and I'm tired, but they're out there. So, it's just very, very impressive to finally see the linebacker group play the way they did after what happened last season.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and we talked about it a bunch coming out of Oxnard, though. This linebacker group will be better. And I think they got off to a great start yesterday. I really do.
Let's flip to the offensive side of the ball. I want to talk about my man Dak Prescott yesterday. He is 19 of 32, 59% completion, 179 yards, 1 touchdown, 85.3 quarterback rating, and $60 million a year.
Yeah.
Wealthier than he was before. I told my wife, I said, baby MJ's grandkids just got really rich. Like, that's the kind of money we're talking. This is generational wealth that we're talking about for Dak Prescott. But the interesting part about it yesterday was I just read off those numbers. Not terribly impressive, but if you look at the first half, you thought he was on his way to a monster day. He was 14 of 21, 67% completions, 156 yards on the through the air, a touchdown, and a 104.5 rating just in the first half. So my question for you guys is, what was the difference in the first and the second half? Was it more, hey, they didn't have to do as much, so they didn't do as much? Did they start running into some bigger problems with Cleveland that they didn't experience in the first half? What was the difference?
Brian might have a different perspective here, but for me, it was just a really good defensive coordinator making really good defensive adjustments, and it stifled this offense. And there's definitely some concerns or not concerns, but I think there's a lot of things that they can go back and watch today in the passing game, in the running game. There was just no momentum created after the halftime break. And fortunately, you have a guy like Brandon Aubrey who could bail you out of a couple of situations and get you 3 points, but didn't love the offensive production in the second half. In the passing game specifically, I think you started to see a little bit of that rhythm between Dak and CD maybe not being 100%. I think you maybe saw it at 75% in this game, and you started to see why that was the case in the second half, that Brandon Cooks comes out for dehydration. It kind of messes up the passing game a little bit. But overall, I mean, that's why you build that first half lead. Fortunately for them, they built it strongly enough. But I thought it was just a really good defensive coach who made really good defensive adjustments at halftime.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there too. And you look you start to talk about, to me, if the second half for Ezekiel Elliott would have been 10 carries for 40 yards, I would have felt a lot better about the offense. And initially though, there was some really good design. You got to give Dak credit on the touchdown to Cooks, because they don't block the front's not blocked right. You know, they catch a blitzer. They had enough blockers to take care of the blitzer. Dak just did a great job of getting rid of the football and knowing that Cooks was on Thornhill, and Thornhill can't cover me. I'm sorry, Thornhill, you can't cover me on the route. But it just, they run by. It's a great design. And
you got some wiggle?
Yeah, I got. But there was some creativity. The way the creativity came for them with running the ball early, and that's why I think they had some success, was the traps, the pulls, movement. It wasn't like, listen, we're going to sit there and get go shoe to shoe and try and push these guys. We're going to try and be a little bit more creative with it. And there's some things you're going to watch this game and you're going to go back and you're going to go, darn, come on, Dowdle, that thing's blocked right. You got to cut that ball. You can't run the darkness there. The traps and the things that they were able to do to spring Zeke, I thought were really good. I think at the second half, it just came, how do you just try and run the clock? Mike comes out, I think got lost as a play call in the second half, 3 straight pass plays, and you're like going, all right, now where's your running? To me, it would have been running game, waggles, boots, running game, waggle, boot. They did in the first half, they did a great job of making the Browns have to defend the whole field. Yeah. They were playing sideline to sideline. Yeah. And we really weren't getting, a lot of the vertical shots, but it's a shame that you had the deep in cut that Turpin dropped. Yeah. That was one of the best balls. It pressures all around Dak and they throw it down the middle and Turpin drops it. You're like, damn, you got to catch that ball. Those are things in the first half where you were kind of like encouraged. And in the second half, it was like watching a preseason game. Yeah, it was. You're just like,
I said the same thing last night.
Why is the ball? Why is the ball going into the ground? Why is the running game not working? Why, it was just like the defense was playing so well that McCarthy knew that. And it's like, instead of saying, okay, we got to amp this thing up. I've got to find a way to get the running game going a little bit. That's where I was hopeful. I was hopeful in that second half they come out and all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's see how well. And Guyton, much better run blocker than pass blocker yesterday. BB, much better pass blocker than run blocker yesterday. Steele, outstanding. Was worried about him in this game. They had some guys that were playing at a high level. They missed some opportunities, I think, in the second half.
That's the thing. I feel like you saw a lot of different elements that are very promising. You're like, okay, I can work with this. We can work with this. They can make it happen. But it is concerning, and I'm not going to kill them this first week because, okay, at least he didn't give up the ball. He didn't throw an interception. And they were able to manage to win the game. But I hope it doesn't become that whole thing that is happening previous year where the defense is playing so hard. Mm-hmm. Then you got Brandon Aubrey, the one scoring points, and then the offense is just not really doing enough because we've seen that. I don't know if it's been 2 years in a row now where we've seen kind of some of that happening at some point in the season where the offense is just kind of trailing behind, and then it's happened where it just kind of flips. Then the defense started trailing behind, and then the offense scoring points. But all that to say, I think we saw a lot of different elements that are very, very, makes me feel very hopeful in the running game. Tyler Guyton, things are very promising. You talk about the difference in him and BB. Yeah. At least there's some balance there.
No, it was, when you watch him play, I felt like it was a matter of survival for Tyler Guyton out there at tackle. And it wasn't always it was not just dealing with Garrett, it was dealing with Smith and everybody. I mean, he was fighting to...
He was bending.
He was trying his best not to. The run blocking stuff I thought was very encouraging. And we've seen him, at Oklahoma, we didn't always talk about Tyler Guyton as a good run blocker. Mm-hmm. But they had some situations in that game. BB's got to figure out a little bit more, but when they push that thing second level, he's got to locate. And Koromora can play. Koromora, the linebacker for the Browns, he will make every single tackle if you don't block him in the running game. And there was a couple of times where, BB, they got hooked up and he couldn't get off, he couldn't get to the guy, and then when they would block it well, as I mentioned, Dowdle runs to darkness. Make the cut, you keep your eyes open, but that's the kind of stuff. They lost that in the second half. They lost the ability to separate. They lost the ability of the quarterback to be accurate throwing the football. The play caller, I think, got out of a little bit of a rhythm too with how he was thinking, well, my defense is playing great. I'm just going to just going to call ball plays here. And, but there could have been some purpose. There could have been some better purpose with him in the second half.
That's something I think I've noticed about Mike McCarthy, and I go back to what he said. He had a comment. I can't remember exactly when it happened, but it was after they had separated with Kellen Moore. And it was something to the effect of, sometimes you get in these games and Kellen wants to swing the score up, and we want to win the game. Yeah. And I think he calls games like that. I think he's going to be that type where if he's got a lead, he may try to just protect that lead versus getting more aggressive at that point to keep running the score up, which can be good or bad. Now, when you got a defense that's playing as well as the defense played yesterday, it actually could be okay. But it does get you a little nervous in the NFL because we saw 3 teams yesterday in the NFL that were down 14 points that came back and won. Yeah. Now, a lead is not safe in the NFL.
No, it's not. And the way they kind of went around it, to try and get some offense or maybe run the ball a little bit better was they got into that 22 personnel with the 2 backs, 2 tight ends.
Yeah, did a lot of that.
And then 21 personnel with the two backs, 1 tight end, and it became Hunter Lipke. Yeah. Hunter Lipke was actually your best point of attack. And I know I'm not saying it because you're sitting there and I know you like it.
Should be.
But the thing with Hunter Lipke, he was Ferguson's out, and now you got to kind of cobble this thing together. Yeah. Hunter Lipke figured out he was your best point of attack blocker. Yep. When you watched him, he was the one guy that okay, I can see why they're running 22 personnel. I can see why they're running 21 personnel here because he was able to do some things. Now, the plays weren't always successful, but he was successful in his task. I was watching him oh, that's a plus block. Well, that was a plus block. Oh, well, that was another plus block. They didn't have that always across the board in the second half.
Yeah, he's turning into one of those players, I think, that you could see the vision
you
for
can
him
rely
when he got
on
here,
him.
But over time, you're seeing him get better and better and better. And there's going to come a point when he's going to be a really, really nice piece for this offense. All right, let's take our first break. We're going to come back. We'll talk a little bit about the running game a little deeper. I want to ask you guys more specifically what you felt about the usage of the 2 backs and even just the pass-to-run ratio yesterday in the game. We'll talk about that when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Don't put off getting your oil change, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Back to the break.
LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game, but don't take our word for it. Digital Trends said the LG OLED G4 has the best picture quality they've ever seen. See it for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. And this segment is brought to you by blockchain.com. All right, let's talk about the running game. Yesterday, you mentioned earlier, Brian, Zeke had those 10 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown. 35 of those yards came in the first half.
Yes, sir.
And just as we were talking about with Dak Prescott, it was a tale of two halves. The second half, not really much. First, talk to me about the usage. Zeke had 10 carries, Dowdle had 8 carries. How did you guys feel about the usage of those two backs and maybe even other backs and how they ran the ball? I thought in the first half it was interesting because it did a lot of, they had CD had 3 different runs.
Yeah.
They were kind of doing different things in the run game. But what were your thoughts on distribution when it comes to the running game?
I feel like they mixed it up well. But again, the creativity in the run game only came from a personnel perspective. And it came from these end arounds from CeeDee Lamb. And granted, 3 of them for 25 yards. And it felt like every time that he was getting that ball in the end around, he had a blocker in front of him. Shout out to Jalen Tolbert. He laid 2 good blocks on those end arounds. But as far as when it comes to the Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle case, I just don't feel like there's enough creativity in the running game there for them to be able to pave some running lanes. I mean, you saw the hurdle in the first play. That was fun. But aside from that, it didn't it didn't inspire a lot of confidence from me, the running game specifically. 18 carries for 66 yards between the two of them. I did like the split, though, because I think it kept them both fresh. It kept them both active. And it wasn't a situation where, and we've seen this in the past, or at least last season, it wasn't a situation where it was, okay, this is Zeke on this drive. Okay, this is Rico on this drive. It was mixing them both in as the drive went on, and I think that's probably what you have to do. That's the approach that you have to take when it comes to this running game. But I still don't feel like there's enough creativity. But I do feel like these guys can get out in the open field. It's just, can they be schemed out into the open field?
Yeah, Elliott's best play was really a draw that they ran. If you look at it, the play with Guyton, he pushes Garrett up the field, and then Smith pins his guy inside, and then you get Ferguson's up on Delpit, and that's kind of where you're at. If BB gets the linebacker, that play's going to go for even a bigger gain. So that's how they tried to run the ball. The jet sweeps, the traps, the various things. Where these backs were the best help to you yesterday was picking up blitzes and picking up,
several times.
If you want to, Zeke had a good Zeke day for 10 carries and 40 yards, and then being able to pick up blitzes. Even the first sack that they gave up to Tomlinson, Zeke picked up the blitz. I mean, it was Martin just got broke down, but Zeke saved the play because but Martin gets that block, then maybe you have a chance because of just what Zeke was able to do. But I felt like that he and Dowdle, when it was asked that when they had to pass block, they were up to the task. I would not be opposed if they could figure this thing out. Zeke just be the third down guy. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, to me, it's maybe you pop him on a draw. Maybe you throw him a screen. Maybe you let him blitz pickup. Maybe, there's things I think you could do with him and not make him the featured guy. But, they'll hopefully figure all that out. I just didn't. I liked what they tried to do in the first half with the creativity. I don't like the execution of it in the second half. And maybe the commitment that lacked a little bit of the commitment to doing it too. Maybe they needed more of that. Okay, we're going to try this series. We're going to come out and see how many times we can run the ball. And if we're getting 3 yards a shot, we'll make this thing 4th and 1, and we'll, or maybe we'll pop a run here. But they could have done more with it. They could have done a lot more with this running game.
I think in my perspective, you say, Zeke probably only used on third down opportunities. Whenever I look at, Zeke versus Rico Dowdle and early down opportunities, I feel like they are similarly productive. Can't say that word. Just if I need 5 yards on first down, to be like, okay, let's set up a manageable 2nd and 5. Which guy can give me those 5 yards?
I thought maybe that Dowdle could. I mean, Zeke looked good. That when they handed him the ball, there was a couple of times where you watch and you're thinking, okay. And I mentioned BB, and if they just get this block or they get this, they can. It's going to look better. And I'm just, to me, I was sitting there thinking, Dowdle's probably got more explosiveness to him. But he didn't play like he had more explosiveness to him yesterday.
Right, yeah.
The one guy that had Vaughn had the one carry, and they ran a draw on that one inside hand, and it was like he had 4 yards. but they've got to do a better job of with BB and these guards and stuff handling the inside linebacker, those inside three, if they're going to want to run the ball better. And I think that's something they're missed out on.
One thing I think was interesting about yesterday, specifically in the Deuce Vaughn case, is I think he earned a roster spot moving forward for at least the next few weeks because of what he did on special teams.
His block,
the block on the
he had the first block
return touchdown. That was the big one.
Yeah.
He sealed off and was able to create that big open hole. And then you see him as part of that escort leading down the charge for Turpin on the sideline.
Yeah.
That was huge. And I think that's going to end up at least solidifying his roster spot moving forward for a few games.
Yeah.
How does that translate into him actually getting some carries on offense? I would have liked to see him get 3 touches, but he only got the 1 for 4 yards, like you said, Brian. But I hope that manifests a little bit more.
I'm with you on that because you're right. The first block that needed to be made on the return, and it happened with the shortest guy, the smallest guy. He got the block. Wanye Thomas got the block, and now we're got an alley to run the ball in. And I like I said, you worry about him. What all can he do? Can he block well enough on special? Yeah, he got the key block that got the thing into the alley, so you're able to score.
Yeah.
So but he does need to get more touches. He really, really does.
Yesterday, the Cowboys had a tied record. 3 starters that were rookies yesterday with those 2 offensive linemen, BP Guyton and then Kalen Carson as well. Let's start particularly with the offensive linemen. And talk to me. I want to talk a little bit about strategically how the Cowboys use them because I think all things being considered, I think they played well enough for their first starts against a defensive front that was as good as that one. I think all the way around when you look at it, I would say that was a good start for them. It had its moments where it was kind of rough, but it was okay. One of the things I think they did strategically I thought was really good was they did move the pocket quite a bit, and they would rotate everybody away from Garrett, which bought Dak more time to be able to move around and look for open guys. What's your assessment of how they used them and how they performed under those circumstances?
Yeah, I think from our vantage point in the press box, it couldn't quite see the line play as much as maybe some other places. So I still do need to go back and look at it from an all-22 perspective. But when I look at the Cooper Beebe case specifically, every time that he was popping up on my screen or in my eyes, he was looking good and he was getting after it. I agree with you, Brian, as far as him being a little bit better in pass pro.
Yeah.
Guyton be a little bit better in run protection. But I think for Guyton, he was certainly bending. Garrett was giving it to him a few times. Exactly. But I
looked like he was in a revolving door a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yesterday
he couldn't get out. It was spinning, and he was caught. And he was trying to get out. But
that's the point.
That's what I've seen Garrett do that.
Yeah.
And you know the kid's a rookie, and I'll let you finish your point there. About you good?
Yeah, the kid's a rookie, and that's exactly that. You did not need them to be all pros yesterday.
Yeah.
You just needed them to provide a solid job, and I feel like they did that, both of them. I give BB the slightly higher grade.
Yeah.
I just really loved, again, what he did in pass protection because I think the biggest problem that you saw with Tyler Biadasz last year, and I'm a little bit higher on Tyler Biadasz than others, but I do feel like they did need to make a change at center. The biggest problem that you saw with him is he created zero depth in that pocket.
Yeah.
And Dak is so strong when he's able to step up, identify his second and third reads, and be able to make that play. And there were games last year where he just couldn't do that. And I think if Cooper Beebe can give the depth to that pocket on a consistent basis, it's going to allow Dak to be a lot more free. I mean, we talked about the experience that they have in the interior defensive line with guys like Dalvin Tomlinson, and he rocked Dak on that very first play. That was Zach Martin's fault, but Cooper Beebe, he looked like he was matching them bar for bar. So it was a really strong debut for Beebe.
Yeah, I think I would give the higher grade to Beebe, like I say. But the run blocking stuff, as long as you're run blocking, I'll be okay with that. But the thing too about the when you look it over, I wish I would have said this when we were talking about the going into the game. And I'm not taking anything away. The Cowboys went out there and got this victory yesterday. I think you caught Myles Garrett at a really good time.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like he was gassed in this game. There looked like times where he wasn't in when you go back and you watch the tape, and I got up this morning and did, where they had him on the sidelines several times, and you're kind of thinking like, okay, he's not rushing as hard. He's not, he's the one time he got that sack, it was Myles Garrett. But it looked like to me he was kind of picking and choosing, and they tried to move him around. And I thought Steele, I thought Guyton, I thought they had a good plan. I thought that chipping was helpful. The backs were helpful. anytime that they could kind of take a shot, even if it was taking a shot to make him slow down a little bit, I thought they had a really, really good plan for this guy and how to play him. But I think you also caught him maybe with conditioning not being at a peak level for him. And I wish I would have said that like that. These guys, this is really their first. A lot of them don't get to play, in preseason. He probably worked against the Eagles and stuff like that. I'm sure they had preseason games where they worked against somebody. But you could tell that he wasn't as Myles Garrett as he's normally Myles Garrett. Maybe in week 4, conditioning will be a lot better for him in the way he plays.
Ironically,
But they did a good job up front. The line did a good job. But I'm just saying, I think you might have caught him at the right time with some of his being off the field.
Well, we don't ever get the luck on our side, so good thing for us. And this is just kind of the start that these players needed.
As Brian always says, I don't feel sorry for you.
I don't feel nobody feels sorry for you. But I'm just saying, if you want to say good scheme, good idea, good plan, good execution. But maybe you caught him at the right time too.
Doubt.
That's always, you said Cooks went off the field for an IV.
So did Kendricks. Kendricks had
people going off.
Issues.
That was tough.
It wasn't like it was a hot day either. It was a beautiful day for football. It was just the matter of playing for 60 minutes.
Right.
Well, Dallas in the first half might have worn him down too. Yeah. With the situation, ran a lot of plays.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying that it worked out perfectly, and I give them props because, again, we got to remember these two guys, they're rookies. Mm-hmm. It's very tough. It's a very different level when you're practicing, and even from practice to college, all those changes, when you hit a real football game, NFL level, it's very, very different. The speed is so different. And when you're going up against a guy like Garrett, it's another
Smith's
level.
Not easy
so these guys, again, I thought they did a really, really good job. Didn't make a whole lot of mistakes, and you can only hope it can keep getting better from this point forward. So I really don't have any negative thing to say about either of them, and we shall see what happens next. And I'm glad, it wasn't week 4 like you're saying, Brian.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just think it's something that I was kind of grateful after watching the way that how many times I was worried about him really wearing them out, and he didn't wear them out, and that was something good. But give Steele credit too in this game. I thought Steele played very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought Steele played very well.
Another thing, no penalties really. I don't remember any penalty call.
11 for 85.
A lot on special teams.
It was a lot on special teams. There was a couple on the defensive unit. Did you talk about offensive line?
O-line.
Yeah, you didn't
O-line.
have those false starts. You didn't have those.
Yes, that's
holding,
what I'm referring
which we were really worried about the holding calls.
Yeah, I was
worried about that for Guyton.
The hand placements and you getting too much in your head and not being as disciplined enough.
Fair.
So I think that's another, how do you call it? Ticking.
Yeah, check.
Check. Green check mark. Ding.
All right, we're going to take our final break. We'll come back. Let's talk about a little bit on the defense, but really I want to get to what I thought may have been the best unit for the Cowboys yesterday, special teams.
Absolutely.
We'll do that when we come back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag & Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag & Turf, the official Ag & Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. You might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys Collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Back to the break.
AT&T, connecting changes everything.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We are rolling along. We're getting our wind back, getting our voice back. It's been a good weekend. Let's finish this thing strong. All right, let's talk about the defense and the special teams. The first thing I want to talk about the defense is really around them stopping the run. I think coming into this year and coming off of last year, there were two things I thought the Cowboys had to get better at. One, stopping the run. One, running the ball. We already talked about their run offense yesterday, but let's talk about the rush defense. The interesting part was, although when you look at it as a stat at the end of the game, they allowed 4.9 yards per rush. It wasn't a factor in the game, but I wouldn't say you necessarily stopped the run. But if you go ahead and look at the first half, they actually played a lot better, and this is kind of the tale of two halves again. In the first half, they held them to only 6 carries for an average of 3.8 yards per carry, 23 total yards. So what did you think overall about the run defense yesterday?
Yeah, I think overall, I think it started up front with the battle in the trenches, and I think this was another product of the Cleveland Browns having to play musical chairs on their offensive line, figure out who was playing. I mean, they didn't know who was starting at right tackle until 90 minutes before kickoff. I think it was more so a product of that, but I don't want to take anything away from the defensive unit because I feel like they really started that game off well, especially when you have a quarterback like Deshaun Watson that you have to account for coming out of the backfield, and he was able to do it a few times on some scrambles, and I factored that into the run game too, because that's the second level's responsibility at the end of the day. But I liked what they did in the first half, and I think the bulk of these yards, I would have to go back and look exactly how many came on that final drive where they were able to push down the field, and then Jerome Ford finally pushed in for the touchdown. But aside from that, I thought it was a strong start. Could it have been better? Probably, but I thought it was a strong start. They'll have a couple of weeks here against Alvin Kamara and then Derrick Henry where they're going to be tested. So, nevertheless, we'll find out here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think with the front seven, the rotation that they had on the defensive line, you didn't have to have Joseph and Phillips play like massive amounts of snaps, and they were able to rotate those guys through. I think Mozzie Smith actually had a pretty good game, and we always worry about Mozzie. Initially, there were a couple of times where he got off the ball really, really well. He was quick. He was square. Played down the line of scrimmage was part of the play. It was part of clogging things up, grabbing guys, holding up guys. So that was a positive from that end. He didn't get washed. He didn't get turned. When you watch the end zone copy of the game, you could see everybody's jersey numbers playing the run game. They've got linebackers that can fill, and that's a really good thing to have happen for you, though. Nealon playing the edge. We've seen in the past that the right end for the Dallas Cowboys doesn't always play the run very well. They put Tank over on that side with Mike on the other to kind of say, okay, maybe they're going to try and run a little bit at the rookie and see what happens there. But I love the rotation. I love the alignment. I love the way that these guys tackle. And I think that the linebackers will make this a good run defense. And it's as long as they're not getting gashed on the run, which I never felt like that they were. Even when the ball tried to, the Browns are not a great outside running team. They're a physical, run at you kind of a team. Amber mentioned the physicality that they played with. I think on defense they showed that quite a bit with the way that they were able to play. The safeties were playing when they needed to be. The linebackers, the defensive linemen were square. They were playing off blocks. Guys weren't getting driven out of the hole or turned or washed. Overall, I thought it was really positive in that regard.
Absolutely. I think they did a really, really good job. But I'm kind of with Nick on this one. Like, it's such a small sample to base, like, really give an opinion of how this is going to look like long term. You know, they still, I mean, it's crazy to me just looking at this again, thinking that both teams scored the same amount of touchdowns. One rushing, one passing. Obviously, it came down to Brandon Aubrey and them, the Browns not being able to get those other points. But I think with this game specifically, you see all the different things that the linebackers are able to do and how they're able to help in that regards when it comes to stopping the run. But am I sold on it? Am I sold on this run defense? Not yet, because I need to see it with another team. You saw the Browns offense have so many different struggles, even with the offensive line that they were dealing with, that I just need a bigger sample size. I mean, either way, they did a really nice job. It just still too early to tell.
I think Dallas's defense made them struggle. I don't think this was lack of talent. I think this was Dallas's front seven played really well.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat. I really do. I think that, you could look at some of the runs that they had that with Deshaun Watson and stuff like that. For the most part, Ford didn't hurt them in this game. I don't think so. And so, to me, I was encouraged by the way this team tackled. I didn't feel like that there were a lot of missed tackles or guys out of position. So if you play square and you tackle well and you fill and you're in position, I don't care who's running the ball. You're going to have some stops. And you mentioned the points that how many times did the Browns go for it on fourth down and didn't get it?
Twice.
Yep. Dallas ended up with 6 points out of that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they didn't take advantage. They could have probably scored 14 points. They could have, but they didn't. So defense got you 6 points right there, just making stops on fourth down. So I think that's all part of it. The run defense, the pass defense, just a great effort overall for that crew.
You mentioned a good job of tackling. I will give a quick caveat to that in the sense that Deshaun Watson did run the ball 5 times for 39 yards.
Yeah.
And you could probably point at probably 3 of those where they should have had him in the backfield.
Negative plays.
Yeah.
Could have been negative plays, right.
So.
Yep. All right, real quick before we end the show, we got to talk about who I thought was at least in the running for player of the game. Brandon Aubrey is a weapon. He is a weapon. I mean, you look at offensively, just look around the league at just offensive weapons. This guy is a weapon because you can roll him out there, and they're getting to the point where they're getting really comfortable.
Get to the logo.
60-plus yards.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, run him out there.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yesterday he had kicks. He made kicks of 57, 40, 50, and 46, and made a 66-yarder that they obviously end up negating because of the delay penalty. But I just look at that, and I'm like, this guy can do pretty much anything you want him to do. After the game, they asked him, would you have wanted to try that 71-yarder? He's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why I was laughing because he stands there like it's nothing. Like,
Nothing
this is just
him.
easy. It's whatever, know.
I love what he's doing. But my question for you guys is, are you at all concerned about how comfortable they are rolling him out there at those long field goals? Because you do create some different challenges and some risks for yourself if he should miss some of those, right?
Yeah, the kick 6 is what you worry about. I've seen the Auburn-Alabama game where all of a sudden, and the Browns even put a guy back there the second time around. Can I ask you guys a question real quick because you were at the game? What happened with the clock management?
They messed it up.
Did Dallas mess it up?
No. Not the way I understood it. The way I understood it was they were expecting to restart the clock and reset the clock, and they didn't.
There was a late substitution by Cleveland, and under rule, they are supposed to be able to reset the play clock.
So was that to put the guy deep? Is that what happened?
No, it was a guy like kind of in that second level,
Okay.
Yeah. Like
okay.
behind the line.
Then Dallas got worked on that because to me, I immediately
there was some questionable calls.
If you really wanted to kick that field goal, burn a timeout right there. Even if you feel like just make them have to make a call there. So, but the 71-yarder, I was sitting there like, don't do this.
Yeah, no.
The thing that only, what always comes to my mind is that stupid Kansas City game. Remember we played here and they threw it to Hill right before half and they ran a screen and they just walked that thing in. I think the Chargers did the same damn thing one time right before half. I'm thinking, please don't kick a 71-yard field goal and have it a little short. And then all of a sudden, you've got offensive linemen trying to cover that distance to get to a guy coming
They're not
back
tacklers,
up.
yeah.
So
you know why I wouldn't be worried in that sense?
Why is that?
Hunter Lipke's on the field.
Well, that's a good point. But the thing about it is, I think they're comfortable with him kicking these things because you know what? Mainly kickers drive the ball. His get up quick. Yeah. He's not a driver. He is it's got some elevation, so you're not worried about a block at the line of scrimmage.
I will say the Vegas 66-yarder definitely got up quick.
Yeah.
The one that he had here in Cleveland, he wanted to drive it into the wind a little bit, and so it came off
It came a little lower?
It came a little lower.
Yeah.
I think he would have had to get it a little lower for that 71-yarder.
Yeah.
But
so that's a problem.
Yeah.
I felt like that every time he kicks, his ball's got a little elevation to it, so you're not worried about. Says you do try a 65-yard field goal, and hands go up, and it's a dry ball, and it's blocked, and now it's all kinds of chaos rolling around.
That's exactly
I thought he said something interesting last night in the locker room. Someone asked him if he has any say in these decisions, whether or not to kick in certain situations. I would have thought that yes, but no, he said he basically stands off to the side and gets himself ready. And then Anger, Fossil, Bones, he's over there, and then Mike McCarthy, they kind of make the decisions whether yes or no, and then he just goes out there and does what he needs to do, which was quite, because you would imagine
I think that's a smart way to do it. I heard him say the same thing.
It is, but I mean, you would imagine if you're the kicker, you would have a say in hey, yes,
he
no.
gives him the range,
but yes,
but what is his range?
Say.
Yeah, what is his range? Is his range? I mean,
I don't think he knows.
It's like watching that pole vaulter from Sweden.
He has no limits,
kid.
Brian.
It's like every quarter he breaks the world record by a quarter of an inch every time.
I want to say he said something like he was asked this back
70 yards,
camp, and I want to say he said it was around at the most he's ever kicked it just like in a practice situation was like 70-something yards.
See,
but again, that's without hands up. Like there's a lot that goes into that that's very different than what you would have to do on the field when you got a team coming at you.
I'm just grateful that those 3 points that before half did not cost you.
Yeah.
You know, you get in a game and all of a sudden you got a weapon that's making 67-yard field goals, and then all of a sudden those points are taken off the board, and now you're thinking, boy, if we'd had those 3 points, this might have been a different game, you know, kind of thing. But hopefully they'll get that squared away.
Derek,
all right.
21 fantasy points for Brandon Aubrey.
Look, and I drafted Brandon Aubrey in my other league. I was trying to get him in our league because he's a weapon. I got him in the
You have him on yours?
Yeah, I drafted him like the 7th round, and everyone in the office was like, whoa.
I was like, what did I say? I was like, if you wouldn't have got him right there, I was getting him when he got back to me because he's a weapon. Like that's offensive. That's offensive skill player.
I used to do the same thing when I was in a draft room. I used to call I was going to take that guy. And look what I'm doing now. I'm doing radio with you guys.
Bad strategy. All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll do a big picture look at this team. Maybe look around the NFL a little bit. Look at some of the NFC East.
I'll have a game for you tomorrow.
Okay, good. That's perfect. That's great.
Have a Tuesday game for everybody. How about that?
That sounds good. We appreciate you guys joining us till then. For Nick Harris, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
I just thought you don't do that
This
very
has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?